It is Rebekah R. Jones, and it is so good to see you for a Prophetic Art Challenge. I want to jump right in by talking to you about perspective drawing. And when you do something called 1-point perspective, you just draw a point here. Let's just pretend that the horizon line is down there at the bottom of that box, and now every single line goes towards that 1 point. And no matter what you're doing, those lines go towards that. So up and down, always straight, sideways, always straight, but we make our sideways lines to that 1 point. And you'll see me doing a version of that. Now, I honestly promise you that I could learn an awful lot about perspective still, and I certainly have done a ton of practicing over the years when I first started learning about perspective drawing. It is a very interesting thing that helps us to make realistic drawings, and it's actually how I'm doing this little drawing here currently. So it's very straightforward, but it takes a little bit of practice. So what you want to do is you want to try and create a horizontal line and then figure out where your point is. In my case, it's just right in the middle of the room. And then right on the horizon line, that's where my dot is, and everything kind of goes towards the space where that dot is. It's kind of almost right in the middle of my page, and everything else works around getting to that spot. I don't have it perfectly, and I've actually done that on purpose. So what I want you to do is go onto YouTube and look up 1-point perspective and learn what you can about it if you have an interest in improving your drawing skills, because it's actually super easy to do, and it just takes a little bit of understanding, and then you can start to create whole little scenes that make sense, and then you can throw it all out like I'm doing right now and just draw. And that's the fun here. So what I'm doing today is I'm drawing my art studio, and I have a reason for that, which I'll talk to you about, which has to do with what this challenge is for. So what I want you to do is just learn a little bit about the process of drawing perspective. And then in my case, what I've done is I've taken my years of doing perspective and using a ruler and properly drawing all my lines perfectly. And I've just decided to very kind of lazily, sloppily do it slightly mishapped on purpose. And the point of me doing that is that I don't want to get stuck in the weeds and just not actually finish my project, but it's also because I want to speak to myself about my creative space, and that's what this challenge is for. I'm just using a mechanical pencil and an eraser, and I'm just drawing this with some perspective. So use 1-point perspective to draw something. You could use 2-point perspective if you want, but go look it up on YouTube. There's just a ton of resources, and if in the future I create anything on this, because you guys hound me with requests for more information about this, then I'll put a playlist together and attach it. But for right now, I would just want you to have a look and find yourself some information to learn about perspective, and then go and do this. This challenge is all about creating that space for your creative process, making space for your creative calling. So what I'm doing is just taking my Faber-Castell Pitt pen, because it's nice and permanent and it won't smudge when I start watercoloring in a bit. And I'm just going over my sketch once I'm happy with it. And I'm just adding in any details that I want. It's actually very simple to draw. There are 2 things that you have to remember. Pay attention to detail, and number 2, pay attention to detail. That's it. So what you want to do is pay attention to the detail around you. What does that knob look like that's holding that thing in place? What does that branch of that little bush look like? What does the handle and screw look like that's holding that microphone? How many shelves are there actually? What does the shape of the foot on that chair really look like? Look at the small details, one piece at a time. Don't expect yourself to absorb all the information in front of you when you're drawing something, but simply think one piece at a time and draw things in relation to the next thing. Do them in pencil, keep erasing, write lightly, and then you'll get to a point where you're happy with it. Then use a Faber-Castell style Pitt pen to cement that little bit of stuff in there. Now, I'm purposely not drawing everything nice and perfect. I'm purposely going in there and kind of throwing the essence of shape there. I'm doing this on purpose. I want to achieve that feel for myself when I look at this. I want to remind myself of the essence of what I was trying to communicate here. So there's a couple of things that I've done because it's artist's prerogative and I want you to do the same, and I'll explain what I'm having you do here in a bit, but just work with me. What I want you to do is take some time to consider your creative space. And if you don't have a creative space, I want to remind you that creativity is a tool that can be used to help you bloom in your creative, in your journey with God, your creative journey with Him, your journey full stop. And if you would like to continue to encounter Jesus through creativity, then making space for creativity in your life is a must. And it is really straightforward. You might be in a very wonderful position where you have a ton of resources at your fingertips and you have all of the art supplies you could possibly want. You might actually feel overwhelmed because you have too many. You may have a dream art studio that you absolutely love, or craft room. You might have no space at all, or it may be just the corner of a shelf. What I want to do is encourage you that if you don't have a place where your art supplies take a space that reminds you to create, put them in a tote somewhere special. Get a corner of a shelf and make it your own and organize those things. Go through that craft space that's too disorganized and overwhelming for you to spend time in, and get rid of those things that you aren't using so that everyone that receives them can enjoy them. Be a giver that lets somebody else enjoy the supplies you're not using, and then let yourself be freed from that overwhelm of having things that you're not using. Try and do what you can. So this challenge is twofold. Firstly, I want you to make space for your creative calling. So make space, whether that be to create a brand new space or decorate the one you have or organize it or get rid of some things, or do what you need to do to fall in love with your art supplies and have a bit of fun with them. Do what you need to do to feel like they invite you to spend time, and it's not that hard to grab them and go do something. So whether it's in an art room or a craft room, or whether it's just in a little tote bag and it needs to be reorganized, whatever you need to do to feel like you are ready to spend time creating without needing to wade through all the stuff, or without feeling like the stuff isn't inviting and fun. It might just be that you want to create a really fun little space for you to enjoy and decorate it. Do what you must, because you know yourself well. Do what you must to create that space that feels like it's ready for you to create in. And whether it's just a little tote bag that you take and sit on your lap and create, whatever that looks like for you, that's the first challenge here, is make space for your creative calling. So I want to know this week, what are you going to do to improve that invitation to create in your life? This is not a selfish thing. This is an important act for you, sort of a prophetic act, if you will, and a demonstration to yourself that you're making space for God to encounter you through creativity, that you're providing a solution for you to take that seriously and feel welcomed and invited to do it. You want to encourage yourself to do the things that are going to help you encounter Jesus through creativity. And if this does that for you, then make sure you're doing that. So make a step this week. If you are really overwhelmed, then maybe you're that person that has too many art supplies. Decide that that's the particular shelf that you're going to go after and make better this week. And then decide what you'll do next week. if it's just that one place, what are you going to do to make those a lot of fun to work with? That's the first half of this challenge. The second half of this challenge is that when you've finished creating that space that you're really enjoying, I want you to take a picture of it, because it gives us perspective. Take a picture of it and then put it up next to you and attempt to draw and then get it traced into an art journal or your Bible or wherever you want to do it, and draw a very imperfect and fun version of what you see that space turning into in time. Now, this picture here, as you'll see, looks incredibly tidy. And that's because I just want to speak that over myself. Right now, it is overwhelmingly full of things that I need to organize because I am busy, and there's a lot of stuff that I've gotten from Creativation that I'm working through and figuring out what I want to show you guys, and that's such a privileged position to be in, but it can be overwhelming. So I'm taking artist prerogative here, and I'm creating a space that feels neat and tidy because I want to remind myself that that's where I'm headed. And I want to show myself a bit of the journey that I'm going for. And this shelf on the left here is actually set up with lots of really fun supplies in it, but I want to draw my attention to my art desk where I want to spend time creating. So I'm not actually going to add any of the detail into that shelf. I'm just going to let it be a blank shelf like that, so that my attention is drawn where the color is on my desk as I put color in there. And then there's some fun little personal details, like the little Christmas cactuses and measuring tape, and just a few little things that make it feel like it's a real place and that it exists. So whatever that looks like for you, go for it. Now, I like to use the lid of my watercolors here. These are Neocolor 2 watercolors. And I like to take the lid and just scribble right inside, and it acts as a little palette. And if I run out of space, like you can see, I just dip a paper towel in some water and just wipe a little space for myself, and it just comes right off because it's watercolor. This is a lot of fun and easy to use. And if I run out of colors, I am very, very blessed to have bought myself last year for my birthday, a full set of the Neocolor 2 watercolors, because I live by the rule, which I'm sure if you have watched my channel for a while, you may know. I always start with a small set of something, try it out and see if I fall in love with it and feel like I just can't live without it, and then I will upgrade to the largest set of it if I feel like I will use it, or I'll just get maybe 24 colors if I think I'll use it often but not really get full use out of the full colors. This is one of my favorite art supplies, so I have the full set. And they've since discontinued the 126 sets, and it's 84 colors now, but it is still a huge amount of colors. And regardless what you have, if you've got some watercolor, you could do something like this. It doesn't matter what art supplies you use, ink tents, anything. Ink tents and watercolor, those things work really great inside of an art journal, but you can do them inside your Bible in all the ways that I've taught on my YouTube channel and blog before. So you can look at any of my tutorials to understand how to do art supplies. Just think, which kind of art supplies do you want to use to convey the scene of the space that you create on? And it might be that you actually just show a chair that you like to sit on and a little tote with some art supplies peeking out of it. That might be your creative space. You might be creating a picture of a really beautiful craft room. And I want to celebrate with you whatever season you're in, because you may be giving up that craft room space because you have a growing family and you want to give that space to them, or because you want your grandchildren to stay and have a place to call their own. Whatever reason you've chosen not to have a whole space, it doesn't matter. You may actually just need one little corner. Whatever it is, let's create a little image of what that is. So take a picture of it, trace the essential kind of dimensions of things like a desk or chair or whatever it is, and then go to town creating a little scene for yourself. And just remember to draw color, use color as a way to draw attention to the things that you want to notice in your image. And so this challenge is twofold. Firstly, make space for creativity in your life, and do that just a little bit more than you have in the past, whether that be to organize your things or go through stuff. And then the second thing is to actually take yourself a picture of that creative space, wherever it is, even if it's just a little corner of a shelf, and then make a creative image of that space. And be creative. Maybe you're going to draw a little image of a chair with a shelf next to it, but the shelf is actually on a completely different part of the house because you don't have the luxury of them being together. Whatever this looks like for you, take a step in the direction of prioritizing how God can encounter you through creativity. And don't class this as a hobby. Class this as something that is good for the soul and is really going to enrich your journey with God. And that will help you to be able to take this more seriously for yourself. And, this is fun. It should be very fun, but it should, I think, be something that helps us to draw near to God. And if we make that space, it will really make an impact. And maybe you're watching this thinking, I've got that spare room that really could be converted and now's the time. If that's you, do it. You just do what works for you, and whatever amount or space that is, you need not be ashamed. Be very thrilled with what season you're in and be content with it, and just find a way to prioritize creativity. That's what the essence of this message is about. And I just want to see you doing things that are going to help you engage with God more and be finding more of Him in your life. And whatever that looks like for you is what matters. It's not what it matters for other people. Now, I'm going into all kinds of detail here by grabbing different colors of watercolor. I could be mixing my watercolor, and the way that you do that is to take your color wheel, have a look at it, and just mix colors that are no further than 2 colors apart. So your purple is right next to your blue, and it might be right next to green. You've got like a little bit of space here, but just work your way around and think, okay, I'm near the red. I can mix red with yellow, and that will get me something slightly different. I can mix red with purple, and that will get me something slightly different. And you can begin to mix your colors and get just a little bit of variety. For this, the fact that I'm creating this and I do have those extra colors already pre-made, I'm going ahead and using out of the box, if you will, colors. And it's fun either way, but I encourage you, play with your colors that you have. Don't think that you need to have more supplies in order to participate in things. Just use what you have. Use watercolor pencils. That would be really fun. And whatever this looks like for you, let it be your journey. But enjoy the process and think to yourself, what can this creative space look like in a way that is going to impact me to look at this and remember where I'm at today and what I'm trying to speak to myself about what I want this space to be. Maybe, what I don't want is for you to create your dream place that doesn't exist. I want you to create your own space, the one that really exists, but just feel free to embellish something that you want to say to yourself. Like, I want to say to myself that it's super neat and tidy, and you may not feel that that's something that you need to say to yourself, but for me, I want to remind myself what it feels like to have that quiet space. And I'm not going to say that my studio is a wreck, because it certainly isn't. I keep things pretty tidy, but there's a lot of stuff. And so instead of me going about creating all of the detailed items everywhere, I just want to remind myself what it feels like to have a quiet space. And that in itself can be a reminder of what I feel like God's saying to me about prioritizing my creative space. And I want to encourage you to do the same. Let's be people of single-mindedness who prioritize whatever it is in our lives that is going to help us to engage with God and grow in Him. And if creativity is that tool for you, then that's what this is about. So how is this a prophetic art challenge? Because I want you to prophetically, I want you to speak out over yourself a new season of moving into prioritizing creativity in a way that can help you encounter Jesus with more than you have in past months and years. That this would be a moment, a defining moment where you make time for your creative calling because you make space for it. Whatever that looks like practically, this is a practical application challenge. So get in there, make your space something that works for you. And keep in mind there are other people in your home who want to feel valued and cared for as well. And obviously consider them. But just find a way that is amicable and considers your desire to grow in God. And find that space. Make it a little bit better in terms of inviting you into a creative connection with Him, and then create a little image of that so that we can celebrate together what that looks like, and come and share what you've created once you've done that. Now, I would encourage you not to share images that obviously might invade your privacy or something like that, but certainly taking a photo and then making this image. I'm not actually showing you a photo of my studio. Now, there is a studio tour on my YouTube channel and you're welcome to look at it, but this is just a image that I'm creating, and I encourage you to do the same. Just create something that shows the essence of what matters to you about your studio. And you can see I'm not even getting the lines right. I'm not getting all the perspective right. I'm not even trying to do this perfectly. I'm deliberately making it a little bit messy, making it a little bit real and raw and sketchy. And that is fun. It's easy. It requires me to be messy. And if you feel like a perfectionist, then this is a little bit of an art in itself, but it's super important to rid yourself of that requirement for everything to be perfect, because it will keep you ultimately from spending time in the Word and being transformed by it. It'll keep you from doing the things of God in your life at some point or another, and I don't want that for you. So let go of any perfectionism, let it be a little bit messy, paint outside the lines, live a little, create some space for yourself to be creative, and improve that space if you've already got it. Do something that prioritizes you encountering God through creativity. And I'm really excited to see what you create. So use whatever supplies you want, have some fun with this. As you can see, this is super easy. I've made myself a coloring page and then I'm coloring it in. And you can do the same thing even if you want to trace in what you're doing. So I've got this little shelving here, and I'm just going to add a little bit of shadowing here just to give it some dimension before I finish. And then that is it. I'm going to consider myself done with all of this. And I am looking forward to seeing what you have to say. Drop into the comments and talk to me about this challenge. I really want to hear from you about what you're going to be doing, what matters to you about this, how this is speaking to you, what you think of perspective drawing, of Neocolor 2, any of this stuff. So chat with me, have some fun, let's visit in the comments, and I am looking forward to it. And if you've really enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. That helps people find this video on YouTube, which is always really helpful and much appreciated. And do what you must to bloom in your season that you're in right now, just as these little Christmas cactuses. Thanks so much for joining me. Please remember that you are so loved, and I am looking forward to chatting with you in the comments.